Hey weirdos, it's Evan Jarvix with Make Oklahoma Weirder here. And it's late July, coming at you with another local music vlog. It's been a bit, and a lot has happened since then. I think it's been probably a couple months since I checked in, and at the time we were on a reopen Oklahoma kick. I mean, I wasn't, but the state was, and we saw a lot of venues starting to open up again, saying that we were overreacting. And yeah, here we are now with a spike in cases and a second shutdown, with very recently Oklahoma City mandating masks in all indoor spaces. It's interesting. I bring all this up, though, not just to set the tone of where we are, but it's relevant to something that's happening right now for local music across the nation, which includes Oklahoma City, Tulsa, everybody. It's the Save Our Stages thing. You might have seen this hashtag Save Our Stages, SaveOurStages.com. So, especially if you follow Tower Theater, they've been a big push for this thing, getting press here and there and everywhere. Even actually, their tweets were featured on an NPR article that came out this week. So it's definitely been getting some attention. Venues are in great danger of no longer existing because of all of this. Historic venues, local venues, independent venues, that even if they've planned for emergency situations, your general rule of thumb on that is like 3 months as an emergency fund. I know that's at least a personal finance thing. We're well past 3 months at this point for venues, because they were the first ones to go, and they'll be the last ones to reopen. And so it's a tough time. If you're a mid-level venue like Tower, or like Diamond Ballroom, Kane's Ballroom, Jones Assembly, places like that, it doesn't make any sense to open up and try and do shows, even with nationally touring acts, with social distancing measures, because that cuts your capacity into just a small fraction of what it should be, and you're going to lose so much money on that. Also, because of that, since the venues are not opening, they're just dark right now and empty, they aren't really hiring employees for anything. And I even speak about this as personal experience, because I was working for Tower before all this hit, and I haven't been working there since. So it's a key thing, because there was a PPP thing that was passed earlier this year, the payroll protection program, I think it was called, and that was aimed to prop up small businesses. You've probably seen a lot about the big businesses cashing in on this thing, but one of the less reported elements of this is that it doesn't really apply to all businesses, because it assumes that you're employing people during this. And in the case of a mid-level venue, or a lot of small venues, places like even the Paramount Room, for instance, is a smaller venue, has just been completely dark. They aren't employing anybody right now. So if you aren't paying for payroll, you don't really get payroll money, So there's an alternative measure that's being looked at. It's called the Restart Act. You can learn about this at SaveOurStages.com. This is being pushed by the NIVA, the National Independent Venue Association, which was formed in the wake of this for this purpose, to support and survive with all of this that's going on. And there's a lot of info on the website about what all is happening, how this will help, what the importance is of a venue beyond just cultural significance, but economic stimulus and everything that is involved with a music scene. And anyway, just go check it out. And if you can do anything to support, the biggest thing you can do right now is to just talk to your Congress people, because they are going into recess here in August, and we're really trying to get this thing passed before then, so that we can keep some devastating things from happening to places like Tower Theater, 89th Street Collective, Jones Assembly. There's a lot of venues out there. I can even read off some more here. Mercury Lounge up in Tulsa, Pony Boy in the Oklahoma City area, Auditorium at the Douglas over on the east side, Vanguard. There's a lot of places that are a part of this association that are definitely in trouble. So I wanted to mention that. I felt it was important to spend the first half of this just talking about that because I think that's probably the most urgent thing right now. With that said, I guess I'll get into some local music items. There's obviously tons that's happened and tons that continue to happen. I'll hit some highlights. I'll mention Jabee up top since we're talking Tower. Jabee is a huge integral part of what Tower is, and a big thing for him recently was a new album called This World Is So Fragile and Cruel. I'm Glad I Got You. He loves his long album titles, and I dig that. You can tell that a project is really special to him because he'll give it that long album title, and it'll be his record. He drops a lot of EPs in between and things here and there. We had, The Life and Times of Jabee, which was kind of like a compilation, theatrical production thing that he did. He had the Selfie EP. He has the stuff with Thelonious up in Chicago, I think. But this is really like his first big album since Black Future, which, if you've been paying attention since 2016, you know what a big deal that was. Okay. So, yeah, Jabee's new album. You probably have heard about it because it was a big deal. People made a big deal about it, and there's a reason why. There's a reason why he's pretty much, number one OKC hip hop. I mean, that's opinion, and I'm always hesitant to, ever say something like that, but it's kind of indisputable. I mean, nobody's doing what he's doing at the level that he's doing it around here, and this album just proves it. Everything that went behind the release of this album, not to mention the album itself, with incredible Castle Row production. I think this is his best sounding album that he's ever done, and he brings some big collaborations on this. Lil B does a feature on this album. I mean, it's wild. And then he always makes room for locals too. I love that about Jabee. He can collaborate with people who are both, maybe a bit more well-known than him, and maybe people who are less well-known than him, and he has space for both. And it's really good. It just is. And sometimes I have reservations about some of his works. Like I mentioned, Selfie EP was one of those things that he put out where, if I'm guessing, I don't really know, but I know he had got accepted to a big festival, and he put that out right around when that was announced, and I feel like it might have been rushed for the purpose of having new music for that. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something he really took his time with. He really spent 3+ years on this thing, and you can tell. So, congrats to Jabee on the successful rollout. Big deal. From there, I guess there's so much. L.T.Z dropped a new album. If you haven't heard it yet, it's definitely different from some of his other stuff. He actually he curses a bit in this album, which he's always been, to me, part of his branding was that he was a clean rapper, even though he had the potential to, drop some curse words. And it's kind of nice to see him free himself from that. Like, he really goes in on some of these songs that, are very relevant to some personal stuff that he's gone through. And, I love the stuff that's, cars and shoes and green apple Gatorade, but to hear him talk about, real stuff too, not saying that stuff isn't real, but it's more lifestyle things, but, things like employment and just wondering, where you are and who you are and what you're doing at any given time. I mean, really big stuff is kind of dealt with on this album. It's called, I always have to look because I want to say that it's something else, Love and Best Wishes. And if you haven't heard that yet, I think it got kind of swept under the rug a little bit. Certainly, Nathan Poppy's always been a big L.T.Z fan and put a lot of press towards him. And since Nathan Poppy's not really been in the big press game so much lately, he's over at Curbside now. I feel like L.T.Z hasn't been getting a lot of love. So check out this album, please. And I think with running out of time, I'm going to mention, if you hear the music that's been playing in the background all this time, this is an album called 4 Improvisations out of Tulsa. It's Dylan Golden Aycock and Joshua Massad from India. They did an improv collaboration. I love this album. Check it out. It's called 4 Improvisations.